Hey everyone, welcome to another Will's Week in Whiskey, the weekly YouTube show brought to you by the podcast where I walk you through some of the headlines and happenings in the world of whiskey over the past week or so. Now, I took a couple weeks off. I had vacation, some other things got in the way, but I'm back here with some more whiskey-related news, so I'm going to get right to it. Now, Tamworth Distillery out of New Hampshire. They've done it again. If you know anything about them from listening to the podcast, you know that they are the makers of the famous beaver butt whiskey, as we like to call it, which is Oud Musk. It's a whiskey that was flavored with castoreum, which is a secretion from the anal glands of a beaver. And they have made a new product that they call Deer Slayer whiskey. Now, what is that? It is apparently 3-year-old wheat whiskey that they then distill with some local smoked venison, some mushrooms, some cranberries, some peppercorns. They say that it's flavored with the flora and fauna of New Hampshire. Now, to me, I've got a lot of questions about it. It sounds almost more like an aged gin or something to that effect than a flavored whiskey. But I think it's something we may have to pick up on the podcast and try out, give a review since we've tried the beaver butt whiskey and gave that. To me, it sounds actually a little bit more palatable than the Oud Musk and a little less grotesque, but we'll find out. It's 99 proof and it's $65 for a 200 milliliter bottle. It's definitely a novelty bottle because of what they're doing and the price tag they're putting on 200 milliliters, but it does sound pretty labor intensive as well to produce this product. Next, if you've gone to the Buffalo Trace distillery ever, you know that you can pick up their own house brand of root beer. And a few years ago, actually last year, they rebranded it from Dr. McGillicuddy's root beer to Freddie'S root beer to honor the famous tour guide and Bourbon Hall of Famer, Freddie Johnson. Now, they are adding to that lineup. It's not just root beer anymore. They're going to have ginger beer and they're going to have ginger ale. They're going to come in a green bottle and a clear bottle, both glass, and they will be available at the distillery and also in some local markets. They're going to be about $1.25 each, which is the same price as the root beer. Everyone knows the root beer is delicious to mix with their bourbon cream. You drink it at the end of the tour if you get to the tasting portion, and it's quite good. So I'm looking forward to this. Maybe make some Kentucky mules with the ginger beer, maybe just on some game days, do some ginger ale and Buffalo Trace. I'm sure it will be delicious, and maybe just on their own. I'm a ginger ale fan, so I'm looking forward to see what this craft soda is going to taste like now that they're putting out 2 new versions. So check that out if you're at the distillery or if you're in a market that has it. That's going to be Freddie's ginger beer and ginger ale. Finally, today, November 10th, a new book is out. It's called Pappyland, a story of family fine bourbon and the things that last. It's written by Wright Thompson. He's a ESPN senior journalist. He does a lot of sports writing in a narrative storytelling fashion. But he's written this book that is focusing on Julian Van Winkle III and kind of his story of picking up the mantle of the Van Winkle lineup, how he preserved the legacy of that brand and continues it to this day. Like I said, Wright Thompson is a ESPN writer, so it's a little bit of a branch out from his normal journalism, but he is a Mississippi native. He's steeped in Southern culture. He lives in Oxford, Mississippi. So I think that his style of writing, as well as his knowledge of the region, will produce a really fine product. I'm looking forward to picking this up. It's a lot of times for me as a reader, I like to read some of these other stories, not just another telling of the history of bourbon or another nuanced take on something, but this is more of a modern story, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Wright Thompson has put out, and it sounds really interesting. It's, like I said, out today, November 10th, in bookstores everywhere, in hardback and on ebook. So pick it up if you're a reader like I am, because it's that time of the year when it's cold outside. Sometimes you just want to pour up a nice fine bourbon and sit back with a book. That's going to do it for this week on Will's Week in Whiskey. I will be coming to you again next week with more bourbon news. I'm going to try to get some more commentary on things that are happening in these episodes, and hopefully you're enjoying them as I know I am. If you haven't listened to the podcast, check us out. Go to thepodcast.com. That's where me and my co-host, The Grease, we talk about bourbon culture and happenings, and we call it Whiskeytainment. It's a lot of fun. We think you'll like it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, and ring the bell so you get notifications whenever I post a new video, or if Grease does, or if we do clips of the show. All of our podcasts are actually filmed on video, and we put them out for our patrons. So if you want to check that out, check out patreon.com/thepodcast. You can get all the episodes that we've filmed up until this point by just supporting even at a $5 level. So check that out if you want to support us, and thanks again for listening. Leave some comments below if you've got some suggestions, maybe some topics you want me to hit, some things you want me to look at, and just some general feedback. I look forward to it. Thanks, everyone, and I'll talk to you next week on another Will's Week in Whiskey. Cheers.